Hi there, it's Haley, and today I'm working on a page from my webcomic Heroic Shenanigans. I'm going to be doing some shading. I got my little action to make a shading layer. I wasn't always using actions in Photoshop when I first started, but I can't imagine not having them now. Definitely would recommend using those. And for my action, it automatically makes a shading layer and sets it to multiply with the 40% opacity because that's my setting for my shading. I pretty much just use the same setting for every page to make it easier on myself, and then I just grab the shading color from a previous page and then I just get right into it. And kind of just start locking in those shadows. I like to I started out like when I first started working on this comic, I would do all the flat colors first, like fill in all the different colors like their skin and her clothes, and then I would do shading after that. And so I could kind of like select one color at a time and then shade just that one color. But I've discovered that I kind of like this way better, doing it all at once, all the shading all at once with just one color, because it kind of helps me think of like the whole character and their shapes rather than just like, okay, I'm just gonna shade like this one part and not thinking of their whole body like all as one shape altogether, if that makes sense. That's something I would recommend trying if you've never done shading like this before. And I mean, you can totally do this after you've done your flat colors too, and just like turn off the color layer or put just another layer of just one single color in, just so that all the different colors aren't distracting you. Yeah. I kind of, at this point, after having done so many pages, I kind of, and like coloring in all these characters so many times, I kind of have my own sort of like formula for like where the shading goes and stuff. I mean, years ago, I used to hate shading, and like I was not confident in my shading at all, and was like, I don't know like where to put the shadows to make this look realistic and believable. But really just starting this comic and just having to do that and just forcing myself to shade all these characters, because it would look so boring if I didn't. You know, certain styles can get away with like not having any shading or minimal shading, and I really like that, but for what I'm doing, I think the shading adds a lot. Like, I think it would be really flat and boring without it. So yeah, so kind of just forcing myself to figure out where all the shadows are on these characters over and over. I just kind of like have sort of muscle memory for like where all the shadows go. And I'm not used to talking while I'm drawing, so it kind of like distracts me a little bit. So I think let me go back and touch this up, but I think that's doing pretty good. But yeah, what was I talking about? Basically, yeah, just practicing, practicing all the shading. Like I'm a lot more confident in where and like how to place the shadows and how to know if it looks good. And so yeah, and basically, starting a comic like forces you to draw a lot and color a lot and whatnot. So if you want to get better at something, I know, yeah, I mean, I don't even know where my drawing skills would be at now if I had never started working on this comic regularly, because it just kind of forced it. And I would be drawing anyway because I love drawing, but having like a weekly schedule really forces you to do a certain amount of drawings in a certain amount of time, just to just get all that practice in that maybe you wouldn't be if you didn't have that sort of schedule and like sort of a goal of I'm gonna do this whole book, this whole chapter. You know, just having some sort of project that like forces you to practice your craft is just really good. Helps you stay kind of disciplined in that, and just gets you all this practice in. Because like now I have, you know, 5 whole chapters of this story completed, and they exist for people to read. And I also have that much drawing and coloring and just story writing practice under my belt that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So it's a win-win. So yeah, if anyone out there is, you know, wants to do a comic, is thinking about it, I say go for it. You will improve so much. If you're waiting, if you're like, oh, I want to start a comic, but I don't think my art is good enough, like I need to practice more. I mean, that could be true to some extent, but I mean, the best thing you can do is just start it, because you will improve so much. I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard this before. You know, this is pretty common advice to comic artists, but just, yeah, the best way to, you know, improve your art is to just start your comic and just do it. And if you're worried about your, you know, your first pages looking back later and being like, oh, these are so bad, I should have waited until I'm at the level I'm at now to start these. I mean, you're always gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna look back at these pages that I'm working on right now in a couple of years and be like, oh, this is awful. But you know, you just have to start, because if you're always waiting until, I mean, because you're always going to be improving. I mean, that is the hope, you know. You never really want to get to a point where you can kind of get to a point where your style sort of levels off. I feel like I'm kind of there now. Like, my style's not changing as much as it was when I was like drawing these characters like in high school, and every time I drew them they looked different. But, you know, I was, like, learning a lot, and, like, it was frustrating for me, because I was like, why can't I draw these characters the same way more than once? But, I mean, I wasn't even, like, considering turning this into a comic really back then, so that wasn't even really my worry. But, it's kind of like, I want to be able to draw them consistently, but, kind of forgot where I was going with that. But, yeah, I think, you know, yeah, I had something else to say, but I totally forgot. Lost my train of thought. But yeah, keep drawing. Practice. Cliche art advice. Shading this Desmond here. Creepy guy. Desmond. I love Desmond. He's like, I mean, he's kind of a villain. I mean, I don't know how much I can say without spoiling, you know, because people, you know, readers are kind of speculating right now, like, oh, like I've had people say, oh, I like him, I hope he's not the villain. And like, I feel like I may have even had a comment or two. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cliche if he ended up being the villain. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with having a little bit of cliches, but I'm also like, yeah, kind of like that you're thinking that way, I guess. So I'm like, yeah, I want to maybe surprise people with what happens, you know, because we've already, in the comic, we've already seen, like, a villain who, you know, Desmond, if you're not familiar with the story, he's, you know, like a peer of the main characters. They're all at superhero camp together, and he's a teenager like them, you know, and he's, you know, shown some aptitude for being sinister and villainous, and he also is the son of a famous villain, which adds to the whole cliche thing of if he was gonna be a villain, oh, it'd be cliche, because, like, he's a villain just because his father's a villain. And I mean, and I kind of like, I do want to play with cliches and stuff in this story and kind of like subvert expectations, but also like you know, totally subverting expectations can also be cliche at this point, because you might be expecting, you know, it might be overdone to totally like make something the opposite of what like the traditional cliche is. But I mean, this is like, you know, this is a fun story about superheroes, so there's definitely going to be like some cliches and tropes and stuff. I want to just like, that's something that I just have fun playing with. Like, I love taking like something that's kind of like a pre-existing sort of lore kind of thing, you know, how like superheroes are, like people, you know, in like pop culture today, people have like, there's a lot of just sort of things about superheroes that people just kind of like take for granted, like it's just stuff that we know, and I kind of like, I like playing with that. Like I have, there's like a line in the first chapter where Zephyr, one of the heroes, talking about this character's dad, actually, the villain, is saying like, oh, we were like, had this nemesis thing going for a while, and that was fun, and he just kind of offhandedly mentions that like, yeah, like, you know, superheroes have nemesis, and that's just a thing in this world. Like, I kind of like stuff like that, where it's like, the audience would know what that is, and then the characters in the story also are like, oh yeah, that's a thing. You know, because like in this world of this story, like superheroes exist. Everybody knows that they exist. You know, different people maybe have different opinions about them. You know, there's certain people who think all people with powers are dangerous, whether they're good or bad. You know, there's like different opinions on them, but there's not anyone who's like, people with superpowers, I think that's made up. Like, it's just a thing in this world. And I kind of think that's more fun than having to have a story that's like, I mean, I'm not saying I have anything against like superhero origin stories or anything, but it's just like, I feel like I can have more fun with this and with a story where I'm like, okay, here's this specific person, they get powers, and now the story is about them like figuring out how that fits into this world, and then having to like hide their identity from people that they know, and you know, and I think there will be a little bit of that in this story, because I do think that this like superhero secret identity, like there's definitely fun stuff you can do with that, and but yeah, but I don't like one, like I'm not like really thinking of any specific examples off the top of my head, but one trope that really bothers me in stories for some reason is when like the kids are like off doing stuff, their magical powers or whatever, and they have to keep it a secret from their parents. And I'm just like, why can't the parents know? Like, maybe the parents are cool and are like in on it, you know? I mean, maybe that's, I don't know. Not everyone's parents are cool, I guess, and would want them running around and using superpower. But I feel like that's a trope that's kind of lame, like the whole keeping it. I can't really explain why I don't like it. There's light from the fire coming from this side, which I will add extra lighting from that, but it's it's so different if you like, you know, draw the shadows in, or if you like erase them out. It feels really different. It's like a couple of pages in the previous chapter, like I experimented with this method where I fill it in first and then erase the shadows out. And then, I don't know, I did it for like 2 pages and stopped doing it. And when I like, casual reader probably wouldn't notice anything different, but when I look back at those pages, I'm like, man, they look so different. Because like I said earlier, like I'm really used to where the shadows go on these specific characters, and I'm just like, And it was a page with these two characters too, Karen and Desmond. And I'm like, man, that's not where like Desmond's shadows usually are. Like on his face, like there's more shadows. Because I tend to like put in less. So like if I'm doing the shadow, if I'm drawing in the shadows, I'll like draw less shadows. But if I'm erasing out the shadows, I'll like erase out more light, so then there'll be more shadows. So it'll be mostly shadow. If that makes sense. So it just like it has a really different look, which like could really work for different lighting conditions. Because like here it's like the middle of the day, but there was a scene where they were at a campfire in the evening. So what I did was I filled the whole color layer in with shadows. Well, not the layer, but like where all the colors are, I filled that in with shadows like how I did here. And then I just erased out highlights where the light from the campfire would be hitting them. So they were mostly a shadow. The perspective in this panel is a little weird because like they are standing on the same ground, but she's just, I don't have the previous page open, but she's just whipped around angrily, just kind of, so she's kind of looming over him to give that effect of like, I've got fire coming out of my hands and I'm mad at you, like I could hurt you, but she's not technically like taller than him in this panel. I mean, they're like basically the same height and they're standing on level ground, but I'm just kind of giving that like looming effect because she's like threatening. But Desmond's clearly not very threatened. He's actually kind of like, he's actually glad because he's like, I'm a bad guy. I want to see you getting angry and being mean. We'll go in and shade the eyes separately, so when the shading's kind of like sloppy inside the eyes, like I'm gonna go in and delete that anyway, so it doesn't matter. So angry. So angry. Karen's angry faces are fun. I mean, all kinds of faces are fun. Like, I always want to try to push the expressions more than I do, but I feel like Karen has had the most, like, ridiculous, which, you know, based on her character, makes sense. She's the angry one. The angry one with fire powers. Speaking of cliches, which, I mean, I came up with these characters, like, so long. Like, people ask me, how'd you get the idea for the story? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even know because it's been in my head for so long. Like, I can remember being like in elementary school and drawing like a very, very early version of these characters. Like, I don't think they were originally superheroes, but they kind of had powers. Like, I don't know. Because I was never like really into any superhero stuff, except for like The Incredibles. But, so I think that kind of shaped like my view of superheroes, where they're just like, they're just born with their powers and they just have them. So that's how it is in the world of this comic. People are just born with their powers. And yeah, but I think that the whole like people having, and whether it's like they're superheroes or it's like magical powers, whatever, like that, I think those kind of stories are fun. So that's like kind of how I got inspired for this. It wasn't necessarily like I was reading superhero comics, 'cause I don't, and that's kind of weird because here I am making a superhero comic. I like superheroes, I like comics, but I don't like read any like mainstream like Marvel or DC or anything. I don't know where to, wouldn't know where to, definitely a lot of like the characters interest me, but I would not know where to start with like reading the comics. I mean, the movies and TV shows are even like, you have to watch all these movies and all these different shows to like get the full picture. I'm like, man, that's why I was watching the shows instead of reading the comics, because I just wanted like a standalone thing. But now it's like, I mean, I'm not like complaining about like the Avengers or anything, because those are a lot of fun. And like, I really enjoyed Endgame without having seen a lot of the other movies. But I mean, I've seen some of them. But yeah, but like, I used to watch the Flash TV show, and I mean, it's probably still good. I just like kind of just stopped watching it. But there were definitely some episodes where it was like, it was an episode of the Flash, but like you had to watch the other episodes of the other crossover episodes from the other TV shows to understand what was going on. And I was like, I don't know who half these characters are. It's just so confusing and out of place. And then the very next episode of the Flash, it was like, none of that previous episode happened. I was like, why? Like, I get that you want people to be watching all your shows, but I don't know. And like, it is a really cool idea of having all these shows. Like, if somebody wants to take the time to watch all these shows and like things interconnect, like, that's really cool. But just for the average person who just wants to like find their one show that they're into and watching every week and excited for when the new episodes come out, which is how I was with The Flash for a couple seasons, it's just like too much of a commitment when you're like, I just want something to watch when I come home from work. I don't want to like have to make this huge investment in like all these other shows that I wouldn't care about otherwise. I don't know. Now I wasn't expecting to go off on a rant today, but sometimes things just happen. But yeah, I do want to watch The Flash again someday. The first season was so good. Like, so good. I would just watch that over and over, but it ends kind of with a major cliffhanger, so I feel like I wouldn't really be satisfied just watching that and being like, okay, that was my like standalone thing. I feel like, oh, well, now I gotta watch what happens next. But just with every progressing season, they just like added more and more like different universes, and it just kept getting so convoluted. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched any of like, I don't even know what season they are on now. I think I watched like through season 3 or 4, maybe like partially through 4. So maybe it's like super good now, if it's even still going. I don't know. I don't know. Why am I talking about TV shows? What happened? Yeah, I started out saying like, well, I'm not really that into like mainstream superheroes, and then I rant for like 5 minutes about the Flash. But anyway. I mean, if we really want to talk about a show based on superhero comics that I really have a lot of investment in, we can talk about Green Lantern, the animated series. But man, I don't know if I even want to get into that right now. That's a good show. I knew nothing about Green Lantern before watching that show, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, Green Lantern's so cool. But like, that show, it felt more like, it reminded me, part of why I liked it so much probably was because it didn't feel like a superhero show. It was more like, it reminded me of like Star Trek or something, because there's like this group of fun characters on a ship out in space, going to different planets every episode, meeting different people. That's a really fun kind of show to me. And then also they have these Green Lantern powers, which are pretty overpowered, but also really cool. Just, yeah, that was a fun show for me. I miss it. I wish it didn't get canceled. I started, like, it was already canceled when I started watching it, so I, like, went into it knowing that, and I was like, whatever, and then by the end I was like, oh, I'm so sad. Like, I went into this knowingly, but now I'm like, why? I don't know if I like his shading. Does he need more shading in his back? I feel like that probably would make sense, actually, because wherever the lighting's coming from, I think for panel layout wise, like, he can be more in shadow, because he's kind of, she's the focus of this panel, and he's just sort of, like, being towered over, and I don't know, the way I'm thinking of it in my mind, it makes sense for him to be in shadow, even if it doesn't make sense spatially, if this were, like, real, but I figure, like, and my style's cartoony enough that I can get away with stuff like that, where it's like, oh, this is not how it would look realistically, but for the sake of, like, storytelling purposes, you can kind of, emphasize different things. Maybe even put more shading on the back of his head. I really like this brush. This is one of the Kyle brushes that comes with Photoshop now. I always used to use just, like, the default round Photoshop brush for inking, which was fine, but then I started using this, and I just, like, I feel like it gives crisper lines or something. I don't know. And I like the feel of it better. Inking with it too. Let's see what's more, because I did for the first, like, at least the first two, and then I think I switched, like, partway through chapter 3. I was inking on paper, and it just saves so much time to just do it directly on the computer, and especially now that I have like a tablet screen computer. Back when I had, like, the kind of tablet that you just drew on and then would look at the screen to see it, it's coordination so much easier when you're, like, drawing directly on the surface where the drawing is showing up. But yeah. Okay, I think that's good for shading for now. Well, I guess I'll just stop this here. Maybe I'll do another video of coloring this, or maybe I'll do another page, but thanks for watching this. Hopefully this is entertaining and you got something out of this, and I'll try to do more of these. So thanks, bye.